Hey, hi everyone. This is Abhiram Shindikar, and welcome to the marketing series which I have started recently. Today I have Lahri with me. Pranjalee has over 16 years of experience in the field of marketing, from driving marketing efforts, leading teams, and now founder of her own consulting firm at PranjaleeLahri.com. So, welcome to the show, Pranjali.
Thank you so much, Abhiram. It's a pleasure being here.
And thank you so much for accepting my invitation actually, and getting this whole marketing podcasting journey started in a way. Yeah, so before we start, I just wanted to ask you about your journey. So do you want to briefly share about your journey, like how did you came into this field and about your background, stuff like that?
Yeah, if I have to look back on the 16 years, I can best describe my journey as serendipitous. Listen, I am an engineer by education. I don't think I ever set out to become a marketer, let alone, starting my own marketing consultancy. But, like Steve Jobs said, that you cannot really connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots when you look backward. So now that I'm here 16 years later, I can see how every choice I made, every role I took up, every company I joined kind of helped me carve out this unique path for myself. Where today I work with multiple customers. I'm privileged to work with multiple customers to help them in their marketing journeys. A majority of these customers that I help with are typically your B2B founders and smaller teams. Either they are in the early stage of their entire life cycle, their company is in the early stages, or it's a bootstrap company where they have a very lean marketing team, they have limited resources, but they definitely have the large aspiration to go big. In my previous life, before I became a consultant, I worked in house. I've led marketing teams in multiple companies, been in SaaS, been in IT for a majority of my life. So that's about me and what got me here.
Awesome, awesome. So it's been a long journey for sure, and hope you are doing great, and you succeed in your business now. So
Touch wood.
yeah, yeah, and you know after leading corporates to now running your own business or consultancy firm, how does a day in your life look like? I'm sure earlier when you used to work, there may be to-do lists, checklists, and n number of things which might be going on simultaneously. But today, is it different?
I, I mean, it's an interesting question you ask, Abhiram. In one word, my answer would be a day in my life is crazy. And this is what they tell you, right? People tell you, go, follow your passion, do your thing. There is a lot of freedom in doing your own business. I think what they don't tell us is that freedom is not equal to free time. So it's not like you have a lot of free time at hand. Very simply, if I have to compare my past life with what it is today, I think we're stretched in so many different directions. And I'm sure you also relate to this, right? It's not just your personal life, you're also doing everything for your family, your friends, all of that continues. But you're also doing so much more professionally. And especially when you're running a consultancy which has multiple customers, you're working on different almost contexts every single day. Sometimes by hour, your context switches, what you have to do switches, the industry you're working in, that changes. So there is a lot of dynamic, variability that comes in the picture when you're doing something like this. And I can best describe my day again. While it's crazy, it's super fulfilling because again, it's something I've chosen. It's a path I've decided to travel upon. So I love every bit of what is happening currently.
Great, great. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of founders who are really, really, I won't say busy, but productive. They are almost continuously in that business thought and how they are going to build things and stuff like that, right? So yeah, I can completely relate. So yeah, so today our topic of discussion would be more around positioning, messaging, and early marketing strategies for startup, right? What you mentioned earlier, uh, messaging and stuff like that. So primarily for B2B businesses. But yeah, I would want to ask you one very basic question. What is marketing according to you, and why do you think it is important for businesses?
Mm. I mean, if the Pranjali when I started out my career just out of MBA, if I was answering that question, and I'm sure I would have answered it in a much more academic, theoretical fashion. But now, having been in the weeds, having done everything that it takes to move, the smallest of things from one place to another in marketing, I think I've come to see marketing in a new light and a new appreciation. So the best way I can tell you what marketing is, it's the art and the science of quite simply helping the right people understand why your solution, your product, your service, whatever it is, it's the best for them in this entire, chaos of everything else that's happening out there. I think that's the best way to understand what marketing is. And why is it important? Goes back to the chaos, the word that I said, because today more than ever, while it's so easy to do everything, while it's easy to write your own content, to start your own business, to build your own products, to code your own, platforms, everything is easy, but it's that much more difficult to stand out because there is so much parity, there is so much noise. So unless you're really able to project that differentiation to the right people, you're just going to get drowned by everything that's out there. So yeah, that's why I think it's so much more critical today, more than ever.
So true, so true. Uh, so you have already started the uh, very niche part with this definition. We'll be diving into this domain very soon. Uh, so yeah, that was great actually. And so yeah, the next question is, so many founders jump into marketing without knowing where to start. And when I say founders, I don't want to, you know, uh, demotivate any founder or show something that you're doing something wrong, but that's the case, right, where many of them are more from engineering background, where they are focused on building things and not how to market them in a way. So what have you seen in your journey, and if you were to cater or simply build a pillar, foundational pillar for early founders, uh, what would be few simple steps for them to set up their marketing strategy?
Yeah. In all fairness, because I work with so many founders and because I've been a part of so many founding journeys, I can say one thing with assurance, right? Let's take a step back. Any person that has ever started anything by themselves has had to do founder sales. Whether you are a technical founder, whether you have come from an HR background, whether you have the luxury of coming from marketing or sales, in the initial days, everything is pretty much done by that one person or the team of founders that have started the company, right? So it's only when the company has reached certain milestone that founder sales starts, slowly evolving into formal marketing. So I don't think most founders or founding teams actually jump into marketing. I think they almost come to marketing after a point when they have hit certain milestones, as I said, whether it's getting the funding, the capital infusion they wanted, whether it's hitting a revenue goal, whether it's acquiring a certain PMF, product market fit, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, what happens is when they decide to get into marketing, it is oftentimes a chase. And the chase is, okay, how can I get more leads? How can I get more revenue? How can I hit my target? How can I increase my revenue from this to that? And that gets them into a different mindset. And whether they are chasing leads or whether they're doing random acts of marketing, and I'm calling them random acts of marketing because sometimes whether it's the first hire that comes in as a part of the marketing team or it's the agency that gets onboarded, whichever way, and again, this is not to say the hire is bad or the agency is bad, it is that without a direction, essentially you end up just randomly checking off things from your to-dos, saying that, okay, let me do this today, let me start LinkedIn today, let me write one blog post here, let me post something there. And that what creates a bigger chaos for the team, and that was what dilutes the direction in what they need to head in. So a better way I have seen is just take some time out, invest that time into a positioning audit. Now, positioning is a exercise that helps teams, not just founders, to identify the one direction, the path that they need to travel on. And again, the way you carve out that path, there are multiple frameworks out there. I don't have my own. You can research, and there are tons out there. Take anyone, see one that fits you, see one that is very DIY, do it yourself, easy to do. And that will help you identify who's the right customer for you, your ICP, ideal customer. Does this ideal customer really benefit from you? So, what is the value that you're offering to them? And how does that value really translate into that one message that very succinctly tells them who you are and what you do? So I think that one piece, just this one piece, can make a change between night and day, from a company that just starts doing marketing to a company that does marketing with that foundation right. And this not only dictates marketing, if I can say, it actually in a way lays the foundation for your entire GTM, all your go to market, how you approach, what kind of sales enablement collaterals you need, what kind of support do you need in your customer success, and of course, the marketing strategies and tactics get defined by just doing this one additional piece of work, which I think is still missed out by multiple teams.
That was so deep actually. So this could this could be a little out of context right now, but I just want to I just have a follow up question actually, where you mentioned about just taking a step back and then profiling out your ICPs and positioning strategies and stuff like that. So here's the thing. So considering a bootstrap startup, they don't really have. So how should I put this? So let's say if they start marketing strategies and they don't, if a bootstrap company they don't have a uh, customer base already, uh, how would it help their product to market in a better way, right? Are you getting
I
what
got
I
it.
mean?
If you don't really have any sample size of what customer base is working, how do you even do the positioning exercise? That's your question.
Exactly, right.
Great question. There is a way for you to hypothesize. So hypothesis allows you to put conditions. So example, you're a company, you're just starting out something new, you don't have customers. Probably there is a notion that you have in your mind that I feel like my product is well suited for ABC in this industry, in this geography, for this segment size, whatever it is, right? Your initial days, even before you do positioning, this is where you're testing your product market fit, is for you to go out and try having conversations with them. And some of this will not actually fall under the bucket of marketing, the traditional technical marketing. A lot of this could actually be customer interviews where you're going, you're talking to them, you're presenting what you have to say, and then you're getting that feedback. The important point in any exercise, whether you're doing a formal positioning exercise or you're doing a hypothesis where you're still trying to get a sense check by talking to people in the cohorts that you feel are going to be right for you, is to get those insights so that you can draw patterns. Ideally speaking, once you've spoken to a good group of people, you should be able to derive patterns to identify, is this sticking here, is it sticking here. Okay, this sometimes may take days, sometimes weeks, depending upon how broad and how deep you're trying to go into cohorts. So let's say if you have chosen one industry, but within that industry there could be segments, there could be a small and medium business segment, there could be a mid market, there could be an enterprise. It could look very different. Maybe you're well fitted for enterprise, but you've been talking to SMB. So you may not really get the resonance at the get go. So I think you'll have to repeat this cycle long enough so that you're able to identify those patterns, put two and two together, and then do a formal exercise where you're starting to see your product stick, where you see that the customers are starting to get the value from it. Even before maybe they purchase, they're able to understand and articulate the product and how that product can help them achieve their goals.
Fair enough, fair enough. In IT B2B businesses, generally small companies or startups, they fear sticking to their niche, right? And from marketing POV, they generally limit their effort for content efficiency and start competing with large enterprises. Now, boiling down to brand awareness phase, why do so many founders underestimate brand awareness building and chase leads instead?
Okay, that was a long question. I'm trying to understand the exact question you're asking. Why do founders chase leads versus brand awareness? Is that okay?
Correct.
Perfect. See, here's, I think this links back to what I was telling you initially in my first answer, right? The founder sales. Every company goes through that. Whether it's a matured, funded company today, whether it continues to remain a bootstrap company, no matter where it is in its life cycle, at some point they had founder sales as a part of the evolving journey. Now, what happens is when they start achieving the product market fit, right, where they start seeing, okay, my product is now starting to get acceptance in the market. People understand its value. There is a word of mouth, there is a high NPS, all of the indicators that tell me that there is a product market fit. They know that they will have to introduce other pieces to it. And that is where your lead gen, your brand awareness, and all of these strategies and tactics almost come as a necessity, right? Because you need to do it. Another important point to remember, Abhinam, is that there is so much feature parity. I think we touched upon this at the start, right? Because there are so many products out there that look like each other. They sound like each other. Like they literally, you cannot tell one apart from the other. Now, this is where after someone has achieved a product market fit, it becomes that much more important to tell your story of why am I different, not always better. Why am I different than others that you may consider? So I would say that's one reason why you need to have brand awareness as a key part of your marketing strategy. The second, far more important thing, in my opinion, is that there is a generic, I would say, standard that says that about 95% of your overall audience is typically out of market, which means only 5% of your actual buyers who have the money to pay for your product or a service at this point in time are out there looking for you. So if you just look at lead gen as the singular small objective, you're kind of ignoring the majority chunk of the pie where it's just in the resting phase, where they're just waiting for the right opportunity to come, for the right conditions to be met, for whatever to happen. So I don't think looking at lead gen and brand awareness as two things in separation or two distinct things is a good way to approach marketing. Rather, if you look at it as a singular funnel where one feeds into the other, and this is where concepts like there is something called as demand generation, right? There is which is broken into you create demand at the top. So there is demand creation, there is demand conversion, and then there are all different stages. This allows you to then say that if my demand creation is about creating that awareness, which then converts into my leads, which is demand conversion, that makes it more of a seamless, homogeneous funnel rather than two separate activities that honestly compete for each other. And that happens in all teams. I think I've lived inside most of the teams, and now I see teams that fight with each other saying that no, 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 this is brand awareness, no, this is a lead gen goal. When I think in reality it's all for the same one objective. It's just that we have been conditioned to look at them differently.
Uh, I can completely relate to one sentence that you mentioned in the beginning. 95% of people may not be the right fit for your product. And from a content marketing perspective, I have learned that very hard way. For sure, I'll share that story some other day with you. But that's quite a fact actually. And yeah, so now the question comes: what practical data points beyond firmographics should a small team use to tighten their focus for maximum ROI?
Okay. See, again, when you're looking at what is the right market for you, there are some, I think, proxy indicators that tell you that this market is the right market for me. So, for example, going back to the example, if you have some customers, let's say even if those are 10, 15, 20 customers, you can actually do a customer insight analysis. I typically do this with most of my customers, right? I literally make them put all of their customer details in an Excel sheet. If they have a CRM, we really just export that data out. But what you're looking for are things like what is the NPS, Net Promoter Score? How happy is your customer? In short, what is the ARR? If it's a SaaS product, you definitely have ARRs. You know what is the annual recurring revenue that a particular customer gives you. Is there an LTV? Do you know that if I have a lock-in period with a customer of 3 years, my LTV with the customer is whatever my ARR into those many years? Sales cycle is a great indicator to say how much time did it take for this contact to convert into a paying customer. So all of these become your proxy indicators to one, identify who are the right fit customers for you. After you've identified this set, that set kind of becomes your ICP profile. What you asked me is a specific question on firmographics. So this gives you a firmographic. So typically you will understand that companies with so much headcount, with so much revenue in this region, this industry, this segment are good for me. I think once you've identified that, really going deeper into each will help you uncover higher ROI, because this is like a smaller cohort. Imagine what you're doing is you have a large TAM, right? The TAM, the total addressable market, is always the biggest. And most founders love a large TAM. By the way, not just founders, most investors love a large TAM, because the larger the TAM, that much is the potential of how much can I earn and what valuation can I get, right? Unfortunately, the bigger the TAM doesn't always mean that you as a company will be successful, because you need to start really, really small. There is this philosophy which is called beachhead. So, beachhead means that after you have identified your exact profile, that pointed ICP, you go so deep in that ICP and then you conquer that entire thing. You dominate it. And once you have dominated it, imagine when we go to play bowling, right? That one bowling pin, once it falls on the other, it just knocks it off. So what if your beachhead becomes that bowling pin that after it gets dominated, it knocks off the other, and then it knocks off the other. So that is how you eventually capture the TAM that you started with. But you don't start by going into the full TAM saying that, today is the day I'm going to capture everything that's out there. You start small, then you land and expand in a way that allows the ICP to appreciate you, for the ICP to see your value, and then for you to cascade everywhere in and around that.
So basically, understanding your niche customer, paying customer, and then you start to evolve and put strategies around how we will capture other market areas, right?
Correct, correct. And see, honestly, Abhinav, another thing that happens is once you have done enough reps to capture one market, as a company, as a team, you develop the muscle, right? So initially, in the initial days, we're all learning. We're all learning marketing. We're all learning sales. We're all trying to do everything by ourselves. As you start building this muscle for yourself, the next piece becomes easier. It's not that the next market is easy, it's just that you have done it so many times that doing the next doesn't feel as difficult. So I think there is also something to be said about the value of repetitions that you do, that allows you to do it in a different market, in a different segment, far more better, in a far more informed fashion than what you would in your previous one.
Right, right. So, yeah, now coming to the messaging part. So, you speak a lot about messaging, right? And startups, what you earlier mentioned as well, startups just don't win on features. While there are few exceptions, but yeah. And so the question comes, where should startup focus their core messaging to create a category of one?
See, let's understand one more thing. Messaging is not something you do in isolation, which means I cannot sit here today, think of five good sounding words, put a put them together and say, hey, this is the message, Abhiram, this is what you should use for your company, or this is the message I should use for your company. Which means messaging should be grounded in insights of both your customers and your product. Typically what happens, and even to this day, right, most people do what I call is a everything for everyone message. Like you try to sound so broad that you are nothing for no one, and then when someone reads your message, you don't understand what they do. Have you seen those all in one software kind of messages?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know, as a consumer, I don't know what that software does. And I'm sure hundreds of consumers like me get equally confused when you see a message that's so broad that doesn't tell me what is it that I do. On one hand, that's what's happening. On the second, we like to use words, right? There are so many words: digital transformation, digitization, and all of these nice sounding words. Honestly, these words, again, don't tell me the specifics of what the tool or the software does. Or then we try to copy a competitor or some big leader, right? So if I am in the CRM space, I am going to look up to Salesforce. I'm going to look up to maybe HubSpot and I'm going to say, they sound so cool when they use those 5 words. I'm just going to go and use those 5 words on my website and my sales documents, my GTM, and the same magic will happen. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So, one thing what I want to say is that messaging is not something that is an exercise to be done in isolation. It needs to be very strongly linked to what we discussed initially, which is positioning. You need to understand who is my ideal customer, my paying customer, who will willingly give me money, who would love sticking around with me, who would want to continue with me for a long, long time. For that customer, what is that unique differentiator that I provide? And then my job is to articulate this in a simple way that that kind of a customer understands really well. So again, positioning, messaging, those to me are two sides of the same coin. We cannot separate them. We cannot say that if positioning is done, forget messaging, or let's do messaging separately. We'll take this up later. Until then, let's just use this on the website or wherever. I don't think that gets people too far.
Hmm. So basically, just being honest with yourself, understand your product, and put your messaging transparently. Basically, stay transparent to your consumer in a way. If to conclude the entire explanation,
Can I just say,
right?
it's about being
Yeah.
honest, Abhinav. Everyone, I think, thinks they are being honest. What we are not
Hmm.
being is, we, I think, sometimes get caught up in, oh, I may not sound as sexy as someone, right? What if my product doesn't have those AI features that everyone else claims? And then we try to sound sexy just by forcing words into it. So I think honesty is important. Even more important is really understanding who you're competing with and who your ideal customers are seeing you with. So, for example, right, if my ideal customer thinks of me as someone that they're replacing their manual setup with. For example, they were doing something with pen and paper, and now they are thinking of me as a replacement to that. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be the next to a Salesforce. Clearly, those are two different ways of looking. So, first, understanding who are my competitors is very, very critical. Most people don't even have the basic understanding of that. We just get too caught up with the aspirational competitors and the industry leaders. That's what I would just want to add.
Awesome. And now, now coming to the most uh, overrated, underrated, whatever you can say to it, the content part of the marketing side, right? And even I have learned this part hard way, where educational content or the top of the funnel content, as we as marketers say, uh, there has been a lot of confusion, complexities to tofu content, where what we previously mentioned about, right? When as a startup you just start competing with big giants in your industry, whereas tofu content for your startup should be, again coming to the brand awareness phase, where you start to explain about your product in your industry, right? So I want to understand from you, why is educational content or top of the funnel content most underrated growth lever for a new company?
Hmm. There's so many thoughts that come to my mind. I'm just trying to organize them, so I go through them one by one. Um, See, the first thing I definitely want to say is that content creation has never been easier. We will accept it, right? I mean, back in the day, people used to painfully write every word, structure it into whatever paragraphs, and that became a blog post. Then that became a longer form post or whatever it is. Today, we just put in prompts, and then we have beautiful,
Yeah.
what looks like a beautiful content published. So it's not like we have dearth of content. We actually have a surplus of content. But what we
Yeah.
also have is non-value adding content. Educational content, in my opinion, is not just words that are strung together to serve an algorithm like a SEO, right? We're just not doing that.
Right.
Educational content to me is something that actually educates, literally educates and add value, to my prospect's journey, wherever he or she may be at that point in time. So I think that one clear understanding of what educational content is, that's super important. Number two, I think a lot of educational content gets hidden. behind gated forms, right? Because we think like, oh, I cannot let this content be out. I need to get someone's details in exchange of my content. You give me your phone number, you give me your email ID, only then will you get my white paper, only then will you get my whatever case study. What that does is it takes that effort from a prospect to do those extra steps. And you know how our buyer behavior is changing? You and I, all of us that are even listening to this podcast, are buyers of something else, right? We may not be buying software in our day to day, but we still are consumers of product. Typically, what we have been now conditioned to, the way we buy is when we search something, we want to see the content, the value there in our feed. And there is a term that has been coined for it recently. It's not a formal term. It got used by Amanda from Spark Toro. She calls it zero click content. What essentially this means is when I search for a term, you know how AI overview comes on Google search? Yeah,
Yeah.
similarly in Chat GPTs, it gives you a summary. And
Right.
don't we love that? I mean, instead of me clicking on three links to get to a page and then the page telling me something right there in my feed, I get a snippet of what I wanted. Like, that's it. That's exactly what I wanted. So now imagine this. All of the educational content that we have been doing is either garbage, I'm sorry, but that's what we have been doing.
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, if the nice content or the even not so good content is hidden behind on forms. Who is looking for that? No one. We want content like this. That era of instant gratification, I think, has just gone even more. We need everything right here, right now, without clicks. So I
Right.
feel educational content is not just important, how you serve it is even more important.
Mm. So true. In a recent LinkedIn post, you mentioned about don't expect leads from your early content, right? Which is also true. And so I want to understand what does it really mean, and why is that ideology important for businesses?
Mm. This again goes back to what I was telling you. Are you aligning to the evolving buyer behavior? See, every time you do something with a perspective of, I'm going to produce content because I need someone to exchange their data with me, we are actually saying that this is more transactional. If you do this, I will give you that, right? That is not how trust works. See, there are so many, entire marketing, by the way, is psychology, right? There's so many things
Yeah.
that we do, which is, it's said that we think emotionally, but then we justify rationally, which means most of our decisions are actually taken in split seconds. I know I want to buy this. The rest of the comparison, the rest of the discussion I do is more for me to justify to my rational brain that I made a good decision. See, if all of this is true and so much of psychology is at play, then why do we want to wait for someone to give their details to me and for me to then follow up with them to put them in a nurture funnel to almost harass them till the time they say, okay, fine, you know what, I want to be out of this marketing sequence, or they say, okay, I want to buy from you. Second, I think far more important is we are entering almost a cookieless world. There is so much sensitization on data privacy, on our own data. So, there are so many laws, like there is a GDPR law that came about. There are similar laws that are coming in India as well that empower individuals to protect their own PIR, personal identifiable information, which means people are in general reluctant to share their data. So, what we are doing is we're actually adding more friction points by saying that I'm going to create educational content, but I'm going to expect you to do these three things, only then will I do something. So, instead of giving the buyer what they want in that point in time, we're actually delaying their process, we're adding more friction, and we're really just, instead of making us seem like a good fit for them in the future, we're actually removing ourselves from the evaluation and consideration set. So, which is why I said that, probably prioritizing leads, especially from your educational content, I don't think is the best strategy. Unless there is a real reason for you to attach that as an objective for whatever reason. And I'm sure there is place and time for that. But for most cases, I would say that if it's educational, keep it open. People will find value and they will come back to you. They will see you as an authority. And if I have to just give you one example, which I think most marketers relate to, is HubSpot did that for themselves. When they created inbound marketing as a philosophy, they created a lot of content. The content was free everywhere. And that is how the association of HubSpot as, inbound marketing, and then everything just became a flywheel. I think that is the way to go, where you can really get market dominance not by paying more ad money or investing more into advertisements. You can actually do that by really putting out good POVs, putting educational content out, and then see the magic happen.
Mhm. So I actually had a follow up on the transactional thing which you spoke, but you just cleared my thought by giving that HubSpot example. So yeah, thanks. And yeah, so coming to our next question, what are your three non-vanity metrics a small business team must connect content to? I guess you already answered that in our last question itself, but yeah, if you have any additional.
I actually don't. And honestly, I don't know if I have any metrics to give for content. See, typically what happens when you're looking at content, now content itself is so vast. It could be blog, it could be a ebook, it could be a case study. Each of these pieces, and I just gave you three, they all serve different stages of the funnel. They all serve different goals. I don't know if there is any one common metric that serves as a common thread across these three. Like, how will you check if a blog post is doing well versus a case study is doing well? Like, that's a very different way to measure. So, I don't know if I have an answer to even give you for what metrics to measure, let alone the non vanity ones.
Hmm. Makes sense. Coming to whole B2B buying journey, you know, B2B buying journey is generally complex. It involves more than three or four stakeholders in a way, and which, because of this whole complexities or stakeholder involvement, the buying process itself gets lengthy. It may be any business, right? So for a small IT team with limited resources, what would be the one critical touch point in buyer journey that they should prioritize to drive conversion?
Hmm. I don't think there is going to be one, to be honest. See, I think because you're talking of committees, right? It's not just one person, and it's not just one person, one decision. It's not so linear. I don't know if one touch point can ever do it. I mean, I've not seen that in my entire journey. Never has it ever happened. Even if your product is on the lower side of ACV, I don't think that has happened. What you can do though, and especially because when we talk of early stage founders or bootstrap companies, we need to be mindful of their limited resources, whether it's the amount of investment they can put in or the kind of teams that they can deploy to do something. It's important that you one prioritize the persona in the buying committee, right? So typically a buying committee, if I have to give you like in general what are the different types, we look at who's going to be my evaluator, who's going to be the decision maker, my influencer, my gatekeeper, whatever. You definitely need to know who's going to be the champion, because there could be four other people in the buying committee, but if you are able to cater to the champion's job to be done, pain points, challenges, you are almost there. So that's one thing. You can prioritize one persona. That's one way to look at it. Second, I think where people typically go wrong is, especially when it comes to sales enablement. We go crazy, marketers, me included. We used to go crazy creating decks and brochures and one pagers and everything under the sky. The reality is, sales never even looks at those. And while they will be happy to know that they have one document sitting somewhere in the repository, 99% of the time that is not getting used. So what you need to do, again, being mindful of the limited resources, you need to identify, is there any high stake point in my entire deal? So maybe the high stake point in your deal could be getting the sign off from a CHRO is super critical. I would use that
Okay.
as my one critical point. Another way to look at this is, I would say, what is that one objection that keeps coming up again and again in all my conversations? I can use these as two kind of points to pull on. And then I'll say, you know what, say Mr. Sales, whoever is my counterpart in sales, I want to co-create something with you. I will sit down with that person, I'll get their inputs, and I'll create this one document, whether it's a deck, whether it's a brochure, whether it's a one pager, whatever you decide to call it, that's it. And I will ensure that it is so optimized to resonate to that one objection or to that one high stake point that I know can change the trajectory of my entire deal if I get it right. So that's my thought on how you should approach it rather than going all out and saying, hundreds of collaterals is what we're going to create, so many, things we're going to do for everyone in the buying journey, and definitely not one touch point.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I have personally made that mistake, and I think uh, I understood my mistake right now, a minute ago actually, where catering to just. So, basically, what had happened is I have had done marketing, content marketing for our users in a way, not the other shareholders in the company, right? So I think that's a very uh, important metric that you have shared with me today
Can I
personally.
say something though, Abhinav? Sometimes
Yeah.
your user can be your champion, but you need to know their equation in their hierarchy. Example, think of Notion. You know how Notion picked up?
No.
People started using Notion. People like you, me, people in companies, we all started using Notion because it was such a easy to use tool. And then it was almost bottom up, where because so many people were using, the managers and the CXOs were like, what's happening? Everyone seems to be using Notion. High time we get it in. So if that is your product, where your actual end user is an important stakeholder in that conversation, please make everything for that user. So I think just categorizing and saying my doing it for user is wrong and doing it for my decision maker is right, it's not always true. You need to know the role that individual will play in their overall buying process.
Right. So basically, nothing is wrong.
Absolutely
You
not.
just need to
You
understand.
just need to understand what that role that person will play. And if that person has a good enough role, as we saw in the case of Notion and so many other tools, which actually grew because of the user acceptance, you are in the perfect place. You actually need to cater to your user the first. So then the company and their managers start accepting and adopting the tool in their companies.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, so we have always seen build along growth series and transparent founder content thriving on LinkedIn and other professional networking platforms, right? And you mentioned that experiences matter more than events. I think in an earlier blog, LinkedIn post only, you have mentioned this statement. And so, what does a small, what does that look like for a small company with tight budget? Uh, the the mention of yours where experiences matter more than events. How would you justify to that
Hmm.
sentence?
I don't remember which post this is, but this is something that I think I came to appreciate in my before I started my consulting. I was working with this HRMS unicorn. It's one of those big unicorns that came out from India, and I was overseeing the Southeast Asia marketing operations. And in Southeast Asia, at that point in the journey, we were fairly new to that market. We were just expanding there. And events became a very important touch point because the kind of personas and the kind of stakeholders that we were catering to were very senior stakeholders in HR. So we couldn't just, send them emails or do everything online. We needed to be there in person to create that collaboration, to create that relation building. And that is why we understood that events is going to be super critical. And that realization that just because we want to do events doesn't mean that we take one booth space and just sit there, with our banner, with our brochures kept. And that is not going to cut it until you give something memorable for people to remember you by. So that in a way taught me something about how a simple event can become an experience. But again, that's not to say that that was the only place where I really put it into practice. Ever since then, whenever the opportunity presents itself, I try to see that how can I take a standard event. It could be a roundtable, it could be a conference, an exhibition that you're attending, or it could be a webinar. Like it could really be anything.
Mm,
But can I make it engaging and memorable for my audience that next time they want to come back to it? They shouldn't feel like I just wasted minutes of my time sitting or standing here listening to a monologue Rather, they should go away thinking I got so much back in return. I'll give you one quick example of another company I consulted. They wanted to launch a product. Okay, it is a safety ecosystem, especially for women and India, especially in India, right? It's not just a tool that allows you to do your SOS and stuff. It's a whole ecosystem. Along with the tool, there is a call center, there's a command center. So as a woman, I feel safe if I carry that tool with me, right? Their first stage, the first phase of their marketing was taking it to companies. Instead of going directly to B2C, they wanted to take this B2B, where we wanted to go and talk to companies which has high women workforce and especially working late hours, off hours, especially for them. And we didn't want to do an event. You know what we did? We said that every meeting, the meeting that we have with the CHRO or the CPO, the Chief People Officer, can I make it as an experience? So we designed a book, a coffee table book, and the book they had nothing about the product in it. Okay, the book was actually because this one tool that they had, the solution they had, in a way was about women empowerment. Like imagine this, right? If I'm carrying this tool with me, I feel empowered, right? It is a safety tool, but at the end of the day, the feeling I get is that of empowerment. So this entire coffee table book was designed on the theme of women empowerment, where we actually took the journey of women empowerment from 1860, when the first woman, I forget her name, she became the first medical officer, and how she empowered women. Then the second story came of someone who did the same in education, how she empowered women. And in that story, slowly we traced it from 1860, came to 2000, and came to, where we are today, slowly introducing technology. And very subtly, this our product was introduced in that story. So every time we went for meetings, we presented them with this coffee table book. And the book is beautifully designed. It's a hardbound. You can literally keep it on your coffee table and it look pretty, right? That was the whole purpose. The reason I told you this whole story is for you to know that you don't have to think that, okay, I'm going to wait for an event to come up for me to create an experience. I think every day can be an experience if you know how to package it and how to serve it. So we created that experience when we met the CXOs, we presented them with this book. It became an experience where they remembered us not for coming and selling a product and leaving. They remembered us as someone who came with the emotion of empowerment and said, you know what, we present you with this book, then rest became a easy sell. That's the story I would
Right.
want everyone to think of when it comes to what can I do with an experience.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, do you want to share the company name? Just to, not from a marketing stand of point, but for all the female viewers, those who might watch this podcast in a way, if they would like to
Yeah,
know.
the name of is Tejo, Tejo.
Okay. Okay. Great. And yeah, so for, yeah, coming to the next question. So for small or bootstrap early stage companies, what is the best way to get into marketing? Is it so? With the folks with whom I have discussed this, generally they go with the answer founder-led sales or founder-led marketing. Uh, but is it, is there any other way to get into marketing?
Uh, I think Abhiram, the answer to this question depends upon what stage the company is at and what are they trying to achieve. Very honestly. Because I can sit here and tell you 10 different things you can do, but without really knowing what is it that you want to do, how big you want to go. So your objective, if it is to scale your company from 1 million to 10 million, it calls for a different scale versus if you're doing a 0 to 1. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. But if I have to give you a broad answer to what you could do, is one, I have seen, and I've seen this from my experience. I'm not just saying this because it sounds good. There are two ways to do it. Number one, if you are someone with a marketing background, you can definitely get a junior marketer, and that can be your first hire. Your first marketing hire can be a junior marketer who has done some marketing, but you can work along with them, you can handhold them, and then you can slowly grow them to do different things. That's one way to do. Second, if you do not come with that kind of a background, if you do not have the marketing know-how, if you're from a tech standpoint, a tech background, or either ways, I think you can actually work with someone who's done it already. And a consultant becomes a perfect fit because a consultant will come and guide you with what you need to do at that point in time. right? And then you can decide that, okay, here's what I need to do. And then you can slowly create your own ecosystem. You don't need to bolt on a lot of people that are going to be on your payroll. You can actually slowly build out the ecosystem. You can scale it up, scale it down based on your needs. And that ecosystem and the consultant helps you grow on your journey. Once your company reaches a particular stage where you feel like, okay, now the consultant has done enough, put the foundation in place, and I'm now ready to bring my own team. I have actually worked with so many companies where we have reached that stage. I have helped them hire their team in house and then have exited. So I think there are ways to do that. And I again feel like unless you know where you're at and your objective, I don't think you'll be able to get the next answer correct.
Hmm. Makes sense. Uh, so I guess we are almost done. But before I have to ask you two more questions. But before I go to that part, and this one question or one phase comes where you have mentioned earlier in our conversation you are about to launch a book. I know you have not asked to do such thing, but yeah, just out of curiosity, what this book is about and how does it look like?
Oh my God. I didn't want to talk about it, but thank you for bringing it up. This is a pet project, Abhiram. I started my career in marketing as a copywriter. So writing is something I would want to believe I'm deeply passionate about. I don't get to do that much writing in my day to day because of how I'm placed these days. But this really is my pet project. It is me putting the 16 years of everything I have done in house, what I do with my customers now as a consultant, really distilling it down. And I don't know, Aviram, it's not like I created my journey in that way, but my entire career, I have worked with companies that are either startups in the early stages or bootstrap companies. So I have seen these challenges, the unique opportunities firsthand. I have lived inside those. So this book, I'm not going to give away the title. I'm not going to give you much about it, but I can tell you one thing. It is designed for these founders that are in these stages now, where they feel like I want to do something, but I cannot do it because I don't have resources, because I don't have investment, because I don't have time. This book is an answer to that. That's my short to what the book is.
Wow, I'm eager to read this book now, and honestly, I'm eager to read this book because there are very few books, I would say, very few books who cater to such niche or very deep thought, right? So yeah, I would love to get one. I'd also buy it from you or whatever platform you're
Once I
listing.
finish writing it, I'm right now in the process of just finishing it. That's my goal. How do I finish it? Another fun thing I'm doing with this book, Abhiram, is I did not want to make this academic. I don't know. Maybe me. I'm now 40, and I feel like I don't think I should be the one to academically prescribe people what to do. I share a lot of stories in that book, just like the story I shared of Tejo of how we did. The book is just stories.
Right.
You literally read stories of all of the companies, different situations in my life that I faced and what we did. My hope is that through the story you get the lesson. I don't want to be sitting here serving you 5, 10 bullet points saying do this, do this, do this. I don't think it works. And I think we are smart enough to know what is to be done. ChatGPT does a great job in giving us, the 10 steps to something. I don't need to be ChatGPT. So this book is a lot of
Right.
stories, but stories hopefully that, founders of early stage companies and bootstrap companies will enjoy.
Awesome. Awesome. So this was one book, Follow Every Rainbow, which so this book was the first ever book which I started reading with, and after that I've started so many. So this book is really about stories of n number of startups. I would say one was Zara, other was Biba. So these brands, how they started. So
Follow your
that
rainbow.
book,
Okay, I'm,
yeah,
I'm
Follow
making a
Your
note of that.
Rainbow.
Maybe I should get one.
Yeah, that was awesome book. So yeah, we are almost into our podcast, and so here are last two questions. So if you could go back to your 25-year-old self as a marketer, what would be a one piece of advice that you would give to yourself?
I just told you I'm 40. I have to go 15 years back, Abhinam. Wait, it will take
Yeah,
me some time. Okay, here's what I'll say. Number one, never stop learning, but also never stop taking help of people. And I'll tell you why. Maybe I should tell you why. You know, when I was a 25-year-old marketer, I told you, I came out as an engineer. I did not really formally study marketing. I did my post graduation, I did
Yeah,
my MBA in marketing, but that was it. But I believed a lot in self learning. Everything I learned was on the job using whatever tools I could get. So I till date, I do that, right? I learn everything by myself. But I never really back then took support of others. I did not have a mentor. I did not have a coach. So I think my journey would have been easier if I would have reached out to the right people and asked for advice. So I just wish my 25-year-old would have been open to the idea of taking support of people who had already walked the path that I wanted to be on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That just gave me goosebumps. Uh, I think that's really true, and which even I am also experiencing at a broader level now. So that's great. And any learning resources you refer to or would like to refer or recommend to learn marketing
Yes.
apart from your book?
Oh, my book. Yeah, definitely my book. Once it is out, it's only my book. But until then, there is so much, Abhiram. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can really tell you everything that I go through, but I'll tell you what I do. Every morning, after I wake up, I have about 1.5 hour in which I have to prep for breakfast, pack my kids' lunch, whatever I need to do, right? I plug in to a podcast, to a series of podcasts, and I have a curated set of about 10 podcasts. It's a mix of B2B marketing. Within B2B marketing, there are some that are only for brand awareness, there are some only for positioning, there are some only for product marketing, and different. That's all I listen to. So my poison right now is podcast. And that podcast again is a curation. I can probably name drop a few, but this is not to say that's the entire list. I love a podcast called Exit 5. It is for B2B marketing. So if anyone that wants to just understand B2B marketing, that's my go-to resource. If you want to get to know more about product marketing, there is something called This is Product Marketing. There is another one by April Dunford. She is the goat of product marketing. She speaks very, very deeply on positioning and messaging. That's another one. Um, then there is in depth. So apart from just marketing, I also try to go beyond that into business. So in depth is a very
Yeah,
good podcast. You see founder's journey, but that gives you a broader sense of business. Marketing is a part of it. So again, a bunch of them, but these are just some few.
awesome, awesome. I think I have my questions done here, and we are good to go. So thank you for this, and all the best to your journey.
Thank you so much, Abhinam. It was a pleasure chatting. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Bye.
much. You have a great day.